So again, we're going to do the entry routine. This time the different thing is they're going to hand in something, right? The name tag is due today, okay? So put it on the desk, or they can put it on their own desk, or you can whatever, or you can have a place in the classroom, and then you'll have a monitor to collect it up, and the monitor will place it on the wall, or it should always be marked on the wall, okay? So people can see it, okay? And so then they're going to work on the web that we started yesterday. Okay, so you're reusing those things that you've started to build up, right? So we're going to work on the web, and then we're going to start on the read aloud. And when we do that, we're going to introduce one more little thing. We're going to use the same sheet, but this time we're going to add in thinking bubbles. So what is a character doing, or something they say? So it's thinking or speaking bubbles, and they can just put those right on in their little drawing. Okay, so we're introducing dialogue in this. What do you think they're thinking? What are they saying? Okay, so on to page 26. We're going to do some math now. You start off with playing the 205. By the way, there's another game which the kids who, when those kids come and they say, oh, Mr. Myrtle, I've played this game about 4 times now, I get the game, and so on. Well, you're going to start talking about strategy, because in the game they roll the dice, and they either get a 1, they have 1 and 5. They can either write it as 15 or 51, and so they got to start thinking about strategy as to how they're going to win the game. So that's one thing you can talk about. But once you've got some top math students who can even get that stuff, then you play 295. So it's a subtraction game. You start at 295. It's the first one to 0 without going over. Okay, so you play the same. So again, it's a nice, simple game that has some strategies, and you can keep your top kids going. But what you're doing is you're going around with your clipboard, and you're looking for kids who can't add with carrying, like who can't do that. If you've got a grade 4 or 5 class, you're going to find some kids who can't do that. You want to find that out right away. And the same with subtracting. Who can't do the borrowing? Okay, if you get one of those students, then you try to pair them up with a good student, a good math student, and you say, help them play the game. You don't say teach them math, but they'll figure out that the person needs that. Help them play the game. They're having some trouble playing the game. And so the kids can help each other and use kid language, which sometimes works better than teacher language, to teach them how to do subtraction with and so on. Okay? All right, let's go on to another cool activity, I think, a palindrome. Anybody know what a palindrome is? What's a palindrome? Okay.
It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's right. It's the same backwards and forwards, like 1, 3, 1, or tot, or mum. Okay? So you can do that by just, like I've done, just sort of saying it, or you can play guess my rule. So you put the numbers on, and they have to guess what's your pattern there. Your task in the game is to prove or disprove whether all the numbers from 10 to 100 become a palindrome using the method. Okay, and you're going to give out these 1 to 100 sheets like this. Okay, and then they can sort of check off each one. And we'll just quickly look at one of the patterns here. So if we look at 12, for example, well, 11, first of all, is already a palindrome, right? It's already a palindrome. But 12, let's take a look at 12. It's not a palindrome. So if we flip it, it becomes 21. Add them together, it's 33. 33 a palindrome? Yes, right? So let's take a look at another one, 39. Okay, it's not a palindrome, so we flip it, we make it 93, right? Then add it together, it makes 132. Still not a palindrome. So we flip it again, 231. And add them together, now it's 363, it's a palindrome. So we just proved that 39 becomes a palindrome. Just like here, we proved that 12 becomes a palindrome. And if you look on page 27, the explanation is all there. Okay, so the key question, and this is where, remember I was talking about rich activities, is the question is, how can you do this activity so that a high-low pair can work together, right? What we don't want is student A, who's really good at math, doing all the work, and student B coloring the poster at the end, because I get the kids to make a poster with their proof, right? So how are you going to do that? Well, if we take a look at the patterns within here. For example, 20. Is 20 a palindrome? No. We'd have to change it to 0, 2, right? 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. That grade 1s and 2s could do that. It's a very easy little section, those. So what I'm going to do is identify the sections that are very easy to do. The hard ones, by the way, are right in here. The mid-70s and mid-80s. They flip 6 or 7 times. Okay? So the point is that you need to look at the activities and try them a bit so that you know where the patterns are in this. Because remember I said math is all about patterns, because there's lots of patterns in this particular activity. So for example, if I take a look at 23, that's not a palindrome. What will the total be, the sum, when I do this? I'll go 23, flip it to 32, add them together, and it adds up to 55. What about 24? Flip it, add it, and it becomes 66. What about 25? Switch it, 52, it's going to be 77. Does anyone see a pattern there? What's the pattern? There's several. What do they all add up to? 55, 66, 77. Where is the pattern going to stop? Along this row. What's the first one that's not going to work? Can you see? 28, yeah. Because when you flip this, you're going to have to carry, right? So 28 is not going to work. So there's a pattern here, but it stops here. Okay, what about this one? 35, what's that going to add up to? Pardon? 88. Yeah, how did you do that? You didn't do the flip. What did you do? You realized that you just add the 2 digits together, right? So that's a kind of a formula, right? And so what we're doing is we're trying to get the kids to look for the patterns and look for ways to simplify it. Okay, so this works until the digits add up to 10, right? Okay, and this one, so also 35 is going to be the same as 26. They're going to add up to the same thing, right? Because this digit got bigger, this one got smaller. Down here, this is already a palindrome, but this one's going to be the same. So all of a sudden the kids, if they start seeing the patterns, they can start saving themselves time. So what we're looking for is, first of all, can they just do it? But then secondly, we're asking, can you find the patterns? And then for those top students, I'm going to give them this challenge. Tell me how many times, so if you look at the question, you tell me how many times it has to flip. So don't tell me whether, well, first of all, you can tell me whether it does, but by just giving me I just give you 47, you can tell me that it flips 3 times or whatever it is. Okay, come up with a formula in words of what that, okay, so that's a very challenging thing. Okay, but it's still just the same activity. So you've got great entry points, nice easy questions for beginning students, but very challenging ones for the absolute top students in the whole school will be challenged by this. And by the way, it's a great thing you can do when you're TOCing. Okay, so practice it, get used to it, learn about it as a TOC. Okay, all right. So we've seen that there's lots of patterns, and you need to actually go through them yourself. You saw that the patterns, the 10s, 20s, 30s are very easy ones, and we looked at when the 20s get hard, right? When the digits add up to 10, and so on. Okay, and where are the hard ones? Okay, and to rehearse them. Okay, if you look ahead to 28, this is the we're going to look at the name tags for a little bit. Okay, so on Friday we had a monitor come in and put the materials on the wall. Okay, and so I'm going to give you people this. If I could get you to just hold those up, and I'll hold this one. Okay? So let's take a look at these. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you like? What ones do you like? Actually, I've got one more here. I forgot. Somebody? Oh, upside down. Thank you. Come on, which one do you like?
The bright ones. Because her name stands out more.
Why does her name stand out more?
It's colored darker than the background.
It is, and I think she's also got a little bit of outlining in it. So one of the things we could say to, let's see if someone doesn't have much outlining, like Alice, right? We'd say, Alice, it might have been better if you outlined your bubble letters with a felt, okay? It'd be easier to see, okay? Now, that language, it might have been better, is the language we use with artists, because art belongs to the artist. You can't say to Picasso, that face doesn't look very realistic, right? His paintings are worth $20 million, okay? But what we can do is make suggestions to artists. So we say it might have been better if you did such and such, okay? And what we're doing when we use that language here in art is we're teaching the language we should use with our peers in math or any other thing. It might have been better if you put a comma right there because it helps, it makes it clearer. Or it might have been better if you something, okay? So we're teaching that kind of a language there. But what we're also talking about is criteria. Because remember I said we had the criteria on Wednesday about how to do this. So the criteria were that you did the names in felt, right? You used a ruler in the background and then did pencil crayons. So is there any that you noticed here that don't fit the criteria?
Alice's. She used felt in the background.
Exactly. So we'd say to Alice, people said they like yours, it's nice and bright, but according to the criteria, we wanted the background to be in pencil crayon. So what the criteria do is they tell you what I'm teaching. They tell you what I'm teaching, and by marking on the criteria, what it enables me to do is to learn whether you've learned what I'm teaching. It doesn't mean your art's not good. Which one missed the rules but still had quite a nice one?
Jenny.
Pardon me?
Jenny.
Okay, Jenny. Okay, she has a nice one. By the way, what would you say about Jenny as an evaluation as a student? Probably ESL. Right? Actually, that's because she actually didn't understand the rules too well. But among the rest, what one didn't follow the rules, but still pretty neat? Raymond, yeah. Didn't color in the names, the bubble letters at all. Okay, broke the rules. So we're going to say to someone like Raymond, everybody really likes your name card. It's really cool. According to the criteria, it's not. Okay, because that's what we were teaching that particular thing. I'm sure Raymond's going to figure out that he can do the felt. It's not like he did it by accident. He was actually being creative, right? So the point is we're using that idea of criteria to tell the kids that what the criteria does is tell me whether you've learned what I'm teaching. That's what their criteria should be. You shouldn't be giving criteria that you haven't taught, right? So we teach something, then we give criteria. It doesn't mean the work's not good. It doesn't mean you didn't work hard on it, etc. It just means that the thing I was teaching, you haven't got yet. So I think you haven't learned it. Okay, now obviously Raymond probably knows how to color in. In addition to teaching a respectful language through the way we talk to artists, we're also going to use this to talk about adding value. You see, top students like Everett automatically know to add value. So he's decorated these letters, even though it didn't say anything about that in the criteria. But there's about 30% of students who don't know about adding value. Adding value means taking the assignment you've got and doing a little bit more. And good students automatically know about that. But about a third of students don't know that. They just never thought about it. They just do what they're told and stop. And what we want, part of teaching students in the intermediate grades is teaching them about the game of school. The game of school, of how to succeed in school by learning how to do your homework, learning how to come in on time, learning how to organize, and so on. That's a lot of the work that we do as intermediate teachers, is teach that kind of thing. And so, because in our society, if you win at the game of school, you get the Ferrari, right? So we want to teach kids so that every kid has a chance to do that, to go after that if they want to, right? And so we want to teach them things like adding value, so that they can get good when when they have the energy and they have the knowledge. Nobody's going to do it for everything, but that they'll know, okay, I can add a little bit to this assignment and I'm going to get a better mark, or I'm going to do a better job in this. Okay, so just to sort of summarize then, these are the things that if I was you, I would be looking at as a new teacher, and so I've sort of put them as the job of a new teacher. The first thing is to be a student of teaching. You know, there's just so much subtlety, like I showed you at the beginning. Just the change of one word can make a tremendous difference in the way the lesson goes and what students are doing. For example, you may have, I remember seeing in a teacher movie, a teacher coming in, and he says, as he came in, the kids were all talking, and he says, "Hey, Johnny, was that you making all that noise?" Now, just by saying it that way, then Johnny can say, "Oh, no, that wasn't me. I didn't make all that noise. I didn't make all that noise," right? Whereas if he'd said, "Johnny, were you talking?" and so on, then Johnny would say, "No, I wasn't talking loud," and they'd have this big argument. So just a little twist of that, and all of a sudden Johnny can deny making all that noise, but everyone knows that the teachers come in and it's time to settle down. So those kind of little subtleties of what I call the poetry of instruction are one of the things that you really wanted to try to capture and learn as you go through. And also looking at the underlying, what I talked about the underlying purpose, like why is that teacher moving over there at that time, or how would they vary it if it was after lunch and the students were kind of tired and so on, to get them more energetic. Or how would they vary it if it's right after recess and everyone's kind of buzzing around and they're not settling well? Okay, so how would you do that? So you talk to teachers about how they might change, what alternate strategies they might use, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of them. Okay, so that's that whole study teachers. Then secondly, you need to find a set of strategies that work for you and really practice them. Strategies so that you have something that you can use in most cases, and a series of them so that you can alternate between, well, just simply telling them or doing this or this. Okay, so you've got a set of choices and knowing the advantages and disadvantages of them. And then actually find great material activities. So for example, the ones that I've done with you, the graph or the palindrome, you can use with your classes, okay? And practice them when you're a TOC, so that you get really good and skillful at introducing them, and you know what works and what doesn't work, and how to quickly fix things, okay? So finding those rich activities and really learning how teachers actually introduce them. You can ask them how do you introduce this? What do you do at the very beginning? So talk to them about the detail of that as well. And then finally, I suggest that phrase from Madeline Hunter about basically lesson structure. I do it, we do it, we do it, you do it, and it's a challenging one. But if you got even one of those we do it in your lesson, you're doing really well. Because to do that, you need to have rich activities, and you need to be able to smoothly go step by step and keep the kids' interest, and at the same time be able to help those kids along who are struggling. Okay, so those are the main things, and thanks very much for your participation. Thanks for watching. I really hope that the ideas and resources here have been useful for you and will be helpful to your students.